Hello, everyone. We are right on time at the Iron Canon podcast. Yes, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, the narrative, and the big ideas of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew. I'm coming to you from Underworld North Studios in Toronto. As always, I'm joined from across the continent by those World Series something or others down there in California. Mr. Joel Davis, you're in Orange County. You're in Angels County. You're not in Dodgers territory anyway. Well,
Well,
I'll
we're a Dodger family. We
Dodger
always
fan,
have been.
as you guys mentioned last week. How are you doing this week?
We're doing good. We just changed the clock back, so speaking of time, it's
Ooh,
like everything now is like so
mhm.
dark outside.
Yeah.
But yep.
Un- well, I was complaining that it was dark outside there when like it in the summer down in California. But yeah, here it's dark outside
Yeah,
here
but now
too.
it's dark like at 5 o'clock, and it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pain. Um I'm okay. Jays lost the World Series when we should have won. We deserve to win that thing, but we'll get next year. But tonight, back to Star Wars. Canon storytelling often dances around the topic of humanocentric fascism. And maybe it's because they have other fish to fry. Maybe it's an uncomfortable topic to write about. Who knows? However, it has been lurking in the background of Star Wars since Han and Luke got their medals, but Chewie didn't. There we go. This week
Slay
we
is the true racist of
there we
Star
go.
Wars. We all know this.
Clearly. This week we're squaring it up. We're going face first on it and charting the development of that lurking lore point in Legends, canon, and on screen. Going to be an interesting conversation as well. All right, before we get that, we'll do the plugs. You can follow us on Blue Sky at ioncannon.bisky.social, as I like to say. Nobody says that bisky, but I'll say it anyway. Ion Cannon, and for Instagram, Threads, Twitter, etc. Go check out the SWU for all your fun topics. You know, yes, like way too late. That's a good problem to have. I'm a fan of that. When I was in Alberta, in the summer, sundown at like 10:30. It was amazing. Anyway, check that out. Also, if we prefer audio, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Do go check that out, and I think everywhere else you get your podcasts. Whenever we're done recording, I will throw it up onto there. So check that out. Search the Ion Cannon podcast, not just Ion Cannon, but Ion Cannon podcast, where you'll find it. Also, the Tractor Beam Comics reviews. I'll get to that in a bit. That's also on Blue Sky and also audio, etc. And we are probably part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network, where we talk all about Star Wars all over the place. And here on the YouTube channel, where you can find Tractor Beam, you can find the flagship uh Underworld podcast. We have YouTube memberships and we have super chats. So as you saw, if you chat with us normally, we'll get to it when we can. If you super chat us, willing to provide financial support to the network and to the channel, we will gladly get to your comment immediately. So that's how that works. Also, the Underworld Discord server down in the description below. We're talking about Star Wars Visions. We're talking about uh, all sorts of updates to comic book news and what is or isn't happening. Who knows? Down there. So you check the link in the description down below. And Joel, what's been happening in the Discord server?
Well, let's see. Last Friday we did a Star Wars Visions watch party, so that was fun. For anybody who didn't have a chance to watch it that week. This week I think we shall return to the tried and true game nights of since now that Simpsons is on Fortnite. That will be fun.
Nice.
And always be on the lookout if you want to join the Dungeons and Dragons uh group to play some D&D.
Nice. Did you end up watching all the episodes, all of Visions?
Yes, we did.
Nice.
I did. I mean, I watched it all in one go
Yeah.
twice. So, I actually had to because I also, fun fact, I guess you should plug this.
Right.
I was on the main show
The flagship,
last
yeah.
week with Ben, Chris, Dom, and Din.
Yes. Yeah. So check that out. Right here on this channel.
Clone Poco.
Yes, some guy named Clone Pogo. I'll explain that in a bit.
Pogo.
Maybe I can get it. Is it? It's still on the thing here. Let's see this.
I don't know. I think Dominic
Video
put in the
file.
clip, but maybe...
No, I don't know.
Ah.
Well, let's see. Slides and PDFs. I doubt it. I don't want to find it. I don't know how he did it. I'll explain that in a minute. First up, continue going. Yeah, check that out. That's also they also have their own audio feed. At the SW. They've been going on for 16 years now. So check that out. But yeah, they're here on this YouTube channel. Also, I mentioned the Tractor Beam Comics reviews every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Chris Abbott and I review the comics and stories, shorter stories that came out that day or that week, or in this case, we're still catching up after New York Comic Con. My copy of Insider finally came in, so we're looking at the short story in there and catching up from last week's Boba Fett Black, White, and Red #2, and then this guy right here on my screen. He's on my left. He'll pop in for talk about Legacy of Vader #10 and maybe some other things going on for Mr. Soul. So yeah, check that out right here on the Underworld YouTube channel at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. It's also be on the Facebooks and the Twitches and wherever you watch and wherever you listen to. So check that out. Yes, okay. I don't want to explain Clone Wars Pogo or Clone Pogo.
Just yet.
Pardon?
Oh, just you do or you don't want to explain?
I do want to explain.
Okay.
Explain that. So apparently, at some point on the flagship on Thursday, Dom shared a video from Din's Resistance Fest of a certain fella in this here helmet. It was me dancing, and it looked like the pogo. So the music was a reggae beat, and one of the dances I know, Sloan Pogo. It has the circumflex.
Yep. I thought that happened. Whoopsies.
There you go. One of the only dances I really know how to do is called skanking, and so ska and skater punk and reggae, which there's a few bands in my unfortunately not misspent enough youth. I did listen to Five Iron Frenzy and some other Supertones and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You can alternate. So it looks like I'm doing random whatever, but no, I'm skanking, guys. It's called skanking. Is a real dance.
Was it hard to dance with the helmet on? Like, can you see? Like,
so if you watch the video, yeah, I could see. But if you watch the video, I was holding it on because it was falling off.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise, yeah, it was fine. I mean, I don't like wearing these too much because yeah, it is. I can't walk around much, but yeah. So that was a few months ago. So there you go. Yes, Joel, I'll let you jump in there. On a more serious note, you want to read about war and what it may be good for, or absolutely nothing. I don't know. So
yes. So
take it away.
Oopsies, I put the wrong button. There we go. I don't need that.
No.
So this is from.
I got it. Let me handle this part.
The Essential Guide to Warfare. One of my favorite Star Wars Legends books.
Mm-hmm.
This part I'm going to read comes about from the Republic Navy in the year 15,550 BBY, and how it played a big part in the consolidation of the Republic. The man known to history as Constant Pex I was born on Coruscant and rose to prominence in the Coruscant Merchants Guild, becoming legendary for his devotion to the Pious Day faith, his opposition to corruption and vice, and his intolerance for any who didn't share his high standards. Such a man was deemed unnatural for cleaning up the Senate. He was elected chancellor after the impeachment and assassination of Chancellor Persla Abathoui in 1987 BY. Constant Peck would be chancellor for some 40 years, and by the time he stepped down in favor of his son, Constant Peck II, Pious Day fanatics effectively controlled the Republic. The Pious Day rose on Coruscant centuries before Constant Peck's time and began with a call for communities to remain incorruptible by policing themselves. Under Constant Peck, the Pious Day faith began teaching that fallen communities should be restored to purity by purging their irredeemable elements. Before a millennia of madness had ended, such purging would take the form of endless wars, and numerous alien species would be judged irredeemable and exterminated. Constant Peck I launched the First Crusades in 1965 BBY, or 11,965 BBY, and preemptive strikes against the Hutts beyond the Rim. Under his dynastic succession, dozens of crusaders would follow, all launched with the Pious Day rallying cry of, "The Goddess wills it." While the Hutts were the first targets, other alien civilizations followed, until paladins of the Pious Day turned against species whose loyalty to the Republic was unquestioned, and finally on human cultures accused of collaborating with hostile aliens. They would overhaul the republic government by fellow adherents, the levers of economic and military power, and quickly purged all those who refused to converge to the ways of the goddess. With the demonstrations, government posts reserved for members of the Pious Day hierarchy. Within 2 and 3 generations, most posts had become hereditary, with government dues become ritualized expressions of Pious Day power. By the last century of the Pious Day period, every new chancellor took on the name Constantex upon attaining office, whether he was a member of the bloodline or not. A bunch of other stuff. Here we go. The Jedi. I'm going to skip some because it's a bit long.
Sure.
The Jedi Order struggled to find the right response to the madness of the Pious Day rule. In 11,933 BBY, it declared itself no longer subject to Republic rule, retreating to Ossus and a debate within the Order ranks and saw the birth of numerous splinter factions. Some Jedi Knights became errant, carrying out unsanctioned missions against the cultists, while the Order looked the other way. A misguided few became Pious Day champions, and after the Crusades ended, the splinter group would survive as a fanatical order of Terrible Glade. But most Jedi set out the Crusades, despising the Pious Day, but unwilling to take up arms against the civilization they had safeguarded. In the end, the Pious Day order was thrown down by an unlikely alliance. The Alaskani, I think that's an alien from Legends, and many of the worlds they controlled had seceded to the Republic in 11,820 BBY, with vulnerable worlds near Perlemian begging
Prolemian
Alaskans.
Road.
Perlemian.
Alsacian and Prolemian Road. Yep.
Alsacans for protection. The 6th Alaskan conflict was a vicious war between the Alaskans and the Pious Day Republic. In resisting the Republic, the Alaski opened secret lines of communication with the Duros, the Hellenics, and even the Huts. Let's see a little bit more. Here we go. The Jedi sees. Let's see. Then the Jedi intervenes eventually, and the Jedi sees contemplates the XIX. That's 20th.
What are the numbers?
XIX.
19th.
19th on the bridge of the flames of Sinsara. The last Pious Day Chancellor was tried on Kamaz and imprisoned there. Meanwhile, on contact with his dwindling followers. Meanwhile, the Jedi did as they promised, rebuilding the Senate and the Republic under the leadership of Bel Ducavis, who served simultaneously as Supreme Chancellor and the Jedi Grand Master. The fate survived. Only cathedral ships had been emerged tracking space. Blah blah blah. End of the Pious Day. I didn't do that justice, but we have time. But yep, I just wanted to read about that and the Pious Day from Star Wars Legends, 11,000 years ago in the past.
Which book is that again? I forget. Essential Guide to Warfare.
Yep. Essential Guide to Warfare.
For some reason, I thought that was a canon book. I guess it's canon. I guess it's Legends.
Ooh, my dad just sent me something. I think I finally got my Matthew Stover signature.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I got that one too. Yeah, the book plate.
Oh, awesome. Hooray.
I'm trying to figure out where to put it is another question, because I don't want to cover the beautiful drawing. Anyway, the Pious Day. I mean, this is going to come up in our conversation, but I brought this up last week. I'm really fascinated by them and how they sacralize this human-centric ideology. How that note about how Republic offices are become extensions of Pious Day theology, effectively. Their view of, I say ecclesiology, meaning the view of their church institution. But also, it's fascinating that a state religion and an authoritarian or monarchical government, whatever authoritarianism, I mean, obviously before a certain degree everything was really authoritarian, but that this rise, it really tracks a lot of kind of Western European history, and I mean, it's kind of Constantinian, but it's also oh gosh, why am I blanking on?
Oh, I know I butchered some names. I was
or like Otto the First and Charlemagne, and it brings in all those things, because of course I've said this multiple times. In the Middle Ages, you read a good history of Christianity in the Middle Ages, or even before that, right? The fusion of monarchy and Christianity as the state religion were inseparable. I mean, that's that the two baptized each one, sacralized the other. I mean, also to say the idea of it being a religion as opposed to what, right? Opposed to the previous things. And so yeah, I mean, there's an example of a very strong theocracy in Star Wars. And again, the fact that it leads to the rise of a more authoritarian. I mean, I guess I have to say, I guess it was more democratic before them, but
Well, it was just the Republic. It was just the regular Republic with the
yeah,
Senate and then this.
but rise of this very strong consolidation of power
Mhm.
is what I'm getting at. And yeah, that's what's so interesting about it, and why I want to see some canon version of that sort of thought experiment come into play.
The things I always take fascinating with the Pius Day. Is it Pius Day or Pius D? I'm never quite sure what I'm supposed to. Everyone
Dea,
with
Dea.
Pius Day is
It's the
kind
feminine
of
form of Deus. So Dea.
one. It lasts for almost like 1,000 years,
Yeah.
maybe even longer. I'm not exactly quite sure. I have to do the date, but it's definitely 1,000 years.
Mhm.
Two, I actually find it fascinating that, at least from what it sounds like, it doesn't sound like they actually changed the Republic at all. It's not like they become an empire on paper. It's like, no, they just elect chancellors. Like, okay, you're the next chancellor. You're the next minister of Republic commerce. Like, we don't actually. It's not like they changed the constitution where
Interesting.
Palpatine just declares himself emperor. It's like, no, they're all the chancellor. They're just now it's just your turn to be chancellor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess Hitler changed the constitution of
He
the
dissolved
German
it.
Empire.
He just dissolved it.
Yeah,
Like
he dissolved it, but he was still called chancellor.
no,
Right.
they actually got rid of that. He was called
Okay.
defer after
You're
that
right.
because
Okay, they changed that,
he
but
com- he combined presidency.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think so.
You know,
That's the thing about a constitution, though. It isn't necessarily completely written down.
well, it's true, but I found it interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the two things. Again, this
Yeah.
lasted longer than Palpatine's empire ever did. It died
Oh
with
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these guys last for 1,000 years.
Mhm.
Even if they take on the name Constant Pex, it's like, nope, you're the new chancellor. I am now Constant Pex the 10th.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. I also found the Jedi's response interesting because, like, they didn't get purged. They just like, welp, we can't support this. We're out,
Mhm.
and they just go to Osis. And then someone's like officially, they're like, yeah, we don't want to do anything with it. But then some Jedi are like, yeah, but this ain't good. So we're
Yeah.
gonna do something. And others are like, actually, no, we like this. So
Mhm.
screw this. We like these Pious Day guys. While the official order are like, yeah, we don't want to deal with this right now. We're just gonna stay on Osis and read books.
Yeah.
Great deal. And then eventually, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
we'll deal with it. We'll team up with these people and we'll store the Republic. And they did.
Yeah. I mean, and a big difference there is, well, two big differences. It seems like the Pious Dea, they didn't really have an interest in purging the Jedi, except for the fact that Jedi had all sorts of different species in it. But human Jedi seemed good with.
Imagine.
And they probably would have wanted to install an all-human Jedi Council and all that. But uh, also, I imagine, did they have the kind of standing army that Palpatine had by the end of the Clone Wars?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
They did.
They
Okay,
had these giant cathedral ships. There's that. Oh,
it's
actually,
true. Yeah, yeah,
let me find a picture. There's actually a picture in here. Okay.
yeah. Oh, I saw on the Wook had the cathedral ships, which is probably where that article is basically taken from. Yeah, the cathedral ships. Yeah, that's true. I guess they would have had to have a sizable navy in order to, in order to crew them. So that's true.
It says somewhere in here.
I mean, did they have the ground
There we go.
forces too? Yeah.
Like most institutions, the Navy became the Pious Day stronghold. Although the
Mhm.
cult had originated with humans, as the struggle dragged on, thousands of Rimkin plants were converted as blaster points and became servants of the goddess. Defeated populations could retain autonomy through conversion, and individuals could move freely between worlds if they joined the military. While in theory, people pledged allegiance to the Republic and its chancellor, in practice, they were beholden to their superiors in the Pious Day hierarchy. Then
Mhm.
they talk about the cathedral ships and how they were the star destroyers of their day and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
Again,
they did have a pretty good military.
but yeah, it sounds like, I guess, but at the beginning they didn't. Right. This took time to develop.
Yeah.
Whereas Palpatine, 10 years before the Clone Wars, has already started to order this thing from Camino. the thing meaning millions of clone troopers and their
Right.
army and their armor and weapons. But
Right.
yeah, it's definitely in practice, right? It's the thing. In theory, on paper, yeah, it's the Republic, it's the Senate, whatever. But in practice, it's this entrenched system of patronage. So that sounds pretty authoritarian to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a cool
Mhm.
little bit of Star Wars history, and I think it's funny that it lasted longer than Palpatine's Empire ever did.
Mhm.
They did Palpatine's Empire, but somehow better
Yeah.
and
Maybe I
longer.
got to be the change I want to see in the world. I need to actually be the person to develop this,
Yes.
a la Beaumont Kin. If I want to have my Tuckerized version of uh, High Republic historical theology, I can also work on the Pius Dei cult and how, yeah, because I mean, there must have been a Force cult of some sort, right?
I don't know. They never talk about the Force. It
Okay,
sounds like they're just weirdos or just influencers who
maybe
doesn't sound like
maybe
they
the
were.
goddess is the Force.
It's possible. They
Yeah,
didn't. Constant Peck never said he was Force
yeah.
sensitive, so maybe he was just a very good politician.
But the canon version can be something else entirely,
True.
or it can be, yeah.
I
I'm
actually think
into it.
it's actually kind of more interesting if they're not Force sensitive. They're just regular humans.
Yeah,
Maybe they
maybe.
got some Force sensitive in their ranks.
Yeah, I'm gonna develop. I'm gonna start to think about it. Get my kind of historical, real world history stuff going. We have thinking about the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Got the
Um,
Heritage Foundation and
yeah.
all the American religious cults that
Well,
things.
there's that. Yeah. All right. Speaking of, are we good? Can we
Yeah.
move on?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a great segue because this whole conversation we just had,
Mhm.
I think, underlines my problem with. Here's my confession.
Mhm.
I've only watched 2 episodes of Visions. I struggle to want to sit down and watch it. The two I've seen are pretty good. The first two, as standalone stories,
Mhm.
but I guess here's the problem: is part of my enjoyment, excitement with Star Wars is how it is connected with everything else. And I thought about this, and what is more, I guess, maybe more reasonable or understandable, and not just being fanboy. Symbols are never empty. Symbols always have meaning. And if you're gonna if you're gonna have Rose have a ring with the rebel with the resistance logo and
Mhm.
showing Broom Boy,
Mhm.
that is for not just for Broom Boy and for Rose and for all of us tapping into all this history, right? That, yes, it's resistance, but it's also the Rebel Alliance. It's everything they've stood for and everything they've done. And so it's just really throwing me off to see this visual language that is familiar, some things that are unfamiliar, but visual language just emptied of its meaning. It's just weird to me. I'm a very visual person, even though I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not anything like that. But um, it just yeah, maybe that's probably part of the issue is I want to see how this is situated and how these characters are situated. So what I found what I was doing with that second uh episode, the continuation of the duel, right? I think that's what it is. Um, we have this kind of inquisitor type character with the Jedi logo, and he calls himself the Jedi or whatnot. My mind was going, okay, this might be what it felt like to be a separatist, and the Jedi are here to uh just enforce a rigid hierarchy and
Apparently,
purge
the world
people.
of the Ronin is like very different from Star Wars. Actually, if you read the Ronin novel, it's like
Yeah, maybe I need to read the novel just because. Yeah, it just so that will flesh things out more and get me more into it. But yeah, I think yeah, that's so. But my point being is that my mind was like, okay, how can I make this not necessarily literally actually fit, but make it kind of be like this is like that. And I don't know. I'll watch it. I promise I'll watch it. I promise I'll like it, everybody. I'll watch it
Can I
on its
read
own merit.
the summary from the Ronin? Because I think it's really fascinating.
Sure.
All right. This is from the Ronin novel, which apparently is really good. Everyone says they
I
like
mean, I
it.
have the audiobook in the library, but I need
Oh,
to
nice.
actually do it.
All right. Here we go. The Jedi are the most loyal servants of the Empire. 2 decades ago, Jedi clans clashed in service to feuding lords. Second by this endless cycle, a sect of Jedi rebelled, seeking control their own destinies and claim power in service of no master. They called themselves Sith. The Sith rebellion failed, succumbing to infighting and betrayal, and once rival lords unified to create an empire. But even an empire at peace is not free from violence. From the far on the edge of the Outer Rim, one former Sith wanderer, accompanied by a faithful droid and the ghost of less civilized age. He carries a lightsaber, but claims lineage to no Jedi and pledges allegiance to no Lord. Little is known about him, including his name, for he never speaks his past, nor he regrets it. His history is as guarded as the red blade of destruction he carries sheathed at his side. As the galaxy's perpetual cycle of violence continues to interrupt his self-imposed exile, and he faces to duel an enigmatic bandit claiming the title of Sith. It becomes clear that no amount of wandering will ever let him outpace the specters of his former life.
So, what does the word Sith mean there? It
I don't
has
know.
nothing to do with what we know the word Sith means. It's explicitly telling us something else. I wish here's what I wish. I just wish it was something completely different and not at all Star Wars.
Maybe
Maybe
I like
that's
that
when
though. Maybe I'm the opposite. I think taking those names and changing
Sure.
them is actually cool. I'm like,
Sure, I know, and you're not alone. I know you're not alone with that.
I mean,
But
like I'll be honest. The only
Yeah.
reason I read High Republic was because it was canon. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have read it because I.
no, you cut out. Your audio cut out.
Oh, hello. Now it's just saying
Yeah,
it's
it's a
like
lot
the
to read.
stories and
Yeah.
I just didn't find the character that interesting. Except Marchion. He was always the cool one.
See, and then maybe that's another thing that's just different is I was always gonna eat up High Republic.
But if High
Both
Republic wasn't
because of
canon, would you have enjoyed it? Like if they declare High Republic not canon tomorrow, and would you still enjoy it?
I mean, so here's the thing: I don't have that problem with Legends,
Mhm.
right? Because Legends is still with that kind of with those symbols in view and those concepts. I mean, the concepts are still in view and visions, and that's the point of it is to flesh them out
Mhm.
in new and fresh ways to make it clear to us, or make it more kind of dilute. Or it's not diluting. What's the solution you put in something in a petri dish or whatever to?
I don't know. I don't cook. I don't cook.
Well, it's not. You don't eat it. It's not edible, but you put in a petri dish to
Well,
make
I
it
have
more
a
visible.
counter question. Maybe it's a better question.
Yeah.
If you watch The Ninth Jedi, which I think it was, you think is it your problem with all of Visions or it's just the duel? Because the duel, I mean, the Roar of the Ronin is bizarre. I will say, it's fascinating, and I think if it
Yeah.
gets another series, I kind of wanted to get actually a whole series because I want that world to fleshed out. But I don't know, like if you watch The Ninth Jedi, Kara is is everything a Jedi is all about. She is love and life and stuff, and
I don't know.
the
I
other
don't quite
characters.
remember. Like, yeah. I mean, I definitely watched the series too, the new series that's coming out. But you mean okay? Remember that thing with the twins
Mhm.
and these starship designs that are sort of like the Empire, but is this the Empire? What's happening? That's in Volume 1. And Volume 2 was fun because it was different nationalities, different countries. Maybe another part of it is I can't figure out. Here's a silly thing. This is a very silly reason. I can't figure out how to make it the Japanese audio with English subtitles because I've always watched Visions in the original language because that further removes me from it so that like okay, this is clearly something different.
Mhm.
It's not trying to be Star Wars because I'm just used to Star Wars in English. So maybe when
I
I
mean,
figure
that's the
that out,
weird thing, though. I think
yeah.
Visions is more Star Wars than George Lucas. I think it gets Star Wars better than even he does because it's Japanese, made by
Well, there is
Japanese.
an incendiary take. It is going to the roots. It is going to George's roots. I do get that. But it's
It's way better
like,
than
okay,
George.
so I read that comic, The Star Wars, based on George's first script. And like, okay, I know what this is. I know this is his first draft that feeds into other things, and especially Return of the Jedi. Actually, his take on Seven Samurai.
Mhm.
But yeah, this one is just, again, I'll watch it, I'll like it, but I'm just thinking about symbols and terms and concepts that have this meaning to us, and then it's the whiplash. I don't know. Like it's like this thing of me being so beholden to canon. Is that the question? Am I being too beholden to canon? You
I
know
mean, I
what?
do.
It's just that when I'm sitting down for my lunch break or for dinner, whatever,
Mhm.
do I want to watch something? Do I want to watch Visions or do I want to watch YouTube?
I think Vision is probably better
I
for
go
you.
for YouTube. I'm going for YouTube. So like
Well, I
tech
mean,
videos
I
on
think
YouTube or
that's the thing,
whatever.
though. I
But
do think Vision gets
yeah,
it better than George Lucas because I think it gets the themes of Star Wars. It's something like that Jedi dude. I think understood the talk about the balance of the Force and like
sure.
life better than in even Clone Wars. I, you know, we had a whole philosophical discussion on it in the main
Yeah,
topic, and I think I think Vision cares about themes and feelings more than it does symbols and
I know. And maybe I need to watch it all the way through. It's just I'm saying, why am I having trouble? It's a new Star Wars. I should eat it up. But like Ahsoka season 2, I'm gonna be like Thursday, 9 p.m. in front of my TV,
I
ready
mean,
to
here's
go.
the question: why do
Whatever.
those symbols matter? Why do symbols matter? Who cares?
Well, symbols definitely matter. I mean, symbols.
I mean, if you're fair enough, a certain symbol is probably like, oh, I should never. Like, yeah, let's show this little crooked X thingy. That's gonna.
But flip it around, and it's a Buddhist symbol, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but no, yeah. I mean, symbols. Of course, symbols matter. I mean, look at this text logo here is a symbol.
True,
Uh,
but here's a great example. Again, the duel. Like at the end, the
yeah,
Jedi dude takes the red lightsaber. That means
yeah,
he's not balanced. I still think
yeah,
that's very
yeah. That's
akin to
probably
Star
true.
Wars.
That's probably true.
He's got
Um,
Ewoks.
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think it's doing that. I think the symbols are still in line with Star Wars.
I mean, even like the Jedi logo and everything. It's like, again, I'm talking about a subjective experience here too. Is another thing,
I
but
mean, again, I guess the
yeah.
question. I mean, this guy is a former Sith, and
Mhm.
this Jedi dude kind of clearly not in a good headspace. So maybe this is just like from his perspective, the Jedi are not his friends.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. I guess here's the thing. I don't like that. What I'm kind of, and then this is like, I don't like my own thing of I'm trying to make it work when that's not the point of Visions, is to make it work. The point is to like stir things up and just do something different and creative. Um, you know, so yes, this is true. I don't have to immediately run for it. I'm just saying, yes, thank you, Daisy. I do appreciate that thought.
Yes,
But um yeah, like I'm just not enthusiastic about it. It's just fine. It's not gonna be my cup of tea because of that. Like again, I wish it were here's something that's kind of like Star Wars. You know what? I mean, almost the Orville
I wish it
is
was.
this.
I love. I've never seen
I
the
mean, the
Orville.
Orville is as Star Trek as Gene Roddenberry's own handwriting, but
Some people
it's not.
say it's better than both Modern Trek. Unfortunately, I don't think that.
No, I think it's as good though.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
but it's not using those symbols as much. I mean, even that. Maybe because I'm just a very much of visual imprinting on my mind. So I'll give it a shot. I'll watch it. I'll try to have to figure out the Japanese audio. I couldn't find it on the Samsung app on my TV because I'm
I
an old guys.
I actually preferred the English dub, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do, but
I mean,
no.
you could ask Did about the duel. 'Cause that's his favorite,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
especially because it goes into like his whole concept of balance of the Force and life
yeah.
dark. There's actually an episode that reminds me a lot of the Yoda arc in coming up too.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah. So,
but how are you gonna feel about when the Ninth Jedi gets a whole series and it's not
so
just a
again,
bunch
I
of
think I'll feel better about it because I'll have just more time with it. Right. That's the weird thing, right? Ahsoka, um, the uncanny plateau of Rosario Dawson, the makeup and the head tails and everything. I was immediately in with the show, like with the Mandalorian episode, it was iffy. And then we got the whole show with it, and it was
I heard they're
good.
improving on the head tails actually,
Yeah,
so they're
so
gonna get
even
just
more.
better. They're gonna
Yeah,
get
even more. But I mean, with Hera and with Sabine and Ezra, I mean, I was just in. So yeah, that might be the thing is these one offs. I mean, that's the thing is the time for it to imprint on my brain. Neuroplasticity, it's a thing. Maybe that's what it is. I'm gonna
Again,
blame.
you should
I'm
try
blaming it.
reading the you should try reading the Ronin novels.
Yeah,
Maybe getting a better sense of what the world of the Ronin is like.
yeah,
Because again, like I'll say this, after the Ronin, like I want this to be the next series. Because like again, Jedi Crusaders, what's that all about? I want to know. Like I want to know what that means.
yeah.
Who, who,
So
who who are these guys?
the Pious Day cult. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean that's what the vibe I got, right? I mean like if they're the servants of the Empire, whatever that means, I
Mhm.
want to know what
Yeah,
that's all about. 'Cause that's again like Ninth Jedi. That's getting a series next year, which I'm
yeah.
super excited for.
Hmm. But I'm more excited for Maul Shadow Lord.
I
Yeah,
mean, who knows? You might like. Well, who knows? You might like Ninth Jedi when it's the whole series.
sure. Yeah, no, I expect I will, but yeah. Also, it's maybe the release schedule thing. I'm also probably coming down on the side of week to week now, which is weird. I didn't think I'd care either way, but
I think it works for Visions more than it probably does for a serialized show because they're anthologies.
yeah,
Like
they're standalone anthologies. Yeah,
they're one and done.
yeah, that's
I'll,
true
s-
too.
I'll say this: you might
Mm,
like some of the later ones because they do
mhm,
mention Order 66 a couple times. So it's like,
interesting.
okay, like
Yeah,
it's actually probably more akin to just what regular Star Wars is like.
yeah. Maybe that's another thing is they're just all in one thing. Do I have to gotta watch all? Like I was surprised you watched them all in one go. I don't
I'm
have that
going to
kind of
be on the
attention
podcast,
span.
so I had to get ready.
Well, there's that. That's true. That would do it. So
That and
when I
spoilers.
finish it, we'll do an episode on it.
Yay.
There we go.
Um,
Okay,
shoot.
but I think that's I'm done fetching. There we go. So I mean, unless you have more to add on this one.
No, I mean, I'll just say I like the season of Visions. I noticed there was a very interesting theme regarding droids. Droids were very much kind of a big thematic arc this season in people's relationship with their droids and how we treat our droids as friends.
Interesting. Interesting.
Which is something to maybe should look forward to as well. And there's one episode which is very Yoda arc, like
Yeah,
by the end. It's like,
you
oh,
mentioned that. Yeah,
this is like the Yoda arc. So be on the lookout for
nice.
that.
Fun times. All right. We went to our main topic, and do something a little different. I had a few thoughts that I wanted to kick it off with, and then I'll throw it over to Joel. Um, some real world stuff, and we're kind of all going through this whole thing, sort of in a real world perspective, in the sense of okay, this is legend, this is canon, this is on screen, whatever.
Mhm.
But I want to say, so we're talking about human centric, fascism, human centric stories, and there's almost this sort of um, I don't know how to describe it, but one of the things that I thought was the reasons for it is was almost as simple. It's easier for production. So the fact of the matter is, almost all major characters are human,
Mhm.
and that I mean a big reason for that is maybe that's just what the storytellers can imagine, especially on screen.
Mhm.
Um, it's easier to just make a film, make a show, if you don't have to have the main character sitting in makeup all the time. Like we talked about Ahsoka, that was hard to get right, and they took time to get it right. They had to take time to get it right, and it took a
It
few
took. I
episodes
mean, it
in.
took.
You
Sure,
cut out again.
it was very piloty when it came when the Ahsoka Freem and Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they had to
So
like, okay, and then we tweaked it again with Book of Boba, and
mhm,
then we're perfecting it even more in Ahsoka season 2.
yeah. So
Sorry.
that's just one thing. But what's really amazing, and thankfully, the storytelling doesn't actually ignore that fact. This is the really fascinating thing. It turns it into this in-universe world building. It says, yes, the stories are primarily about humans because the galaxy is set up to advantage humans. And this gets at the second real world thing I wanted to get at is this the title of this episode is I mentioned this a few weeks ago, is thanks to Dr. Wilmot Kin and really Dr. Chris Kemschel, Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, give us the name for this episode, and my joke of the problem with humans. You mean there's only one problem? It was good joke. I'm proud of that joke. Anyway, shout out to the real world Dr. Chris Kemschel. Shout out to the fictional Dr. Wilmot Kin. And that section is, and this we'll get into this, I think, in this episode, knowing you and me, Joel. Very much coded that there's that section where Beaumont is talking explicitly about human-centric bias, effectively.
Human privilege.
Human privilege, yeah. And it's very much coded as this very real-world intersectional critique. And to the point where I don't think coded is the right word, because coded means it's a little opaque. This was quite transparent. It was quite, what we're talking about is white male privilege, is white privilege, male, whatever, straight privilege, heteronormativity, etc. I mean, he even goes into it a little bit. I've read half of this book. I've read half of it.
Mm-hmm.
Goes into it with naming that Palpatine is human. Palpatine is a white human male, mm-hmm. which is kind of the first time I've had that foisted onto me, and I appreciated that. I'm probably for some folks, probably not the first time, but yeah, it was that. And of course, Anakin is a white human male, and certain fellow by the name of Dooku is a white human male. So yeah, it definitely, it's, and that's maybe why I thought the storytelling hasn't gone into it as much, because it can get maybe kind of preachy, and or struggles with it even. And so that being said, I do wonder if, well, not that being said, and that can get a bit preachy, there may be some more subtle ways of wording it, of expressing it in story, that in that section. I mean Beaumont is kind of doing a methodology section a little bit. It's not so much doing the history, but the historical methodology of saying his own privilege, his own viewpoint. Are there more subtle ways to word that too? I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't coded. It was pretty transparent about what Chris Kemschel is saying, not just what Beaumont Kin is saying. And that is something definitely to ask Chris about, the relationship between him and Beaumont Kin. But yeah, that's one of the places where the space gets very thin and liminal. So that's my opening thoughts on the real world setting for all this.
Yeah, I'll add a bit more to that too, because I had some thoughts as you talked about it. Yeah. It's funny that this is actually something that back even in 1977 George was criticized for, in terms of his usage of aliens, and obviously a very all-white cast. Especially when just 10 years ago, sure, it wasn't great makeup, it's still cheap makeup, but you had Star Trek, which had Spock as the main character, and a very diverse cast for the 60s at least. And sure, it was just sometimes just green ladies painted green, and Klingons just like give them little kind of racy mustaches and call it a day. But there's definitely more of an alien as civilization kind of a thing. Whereas in 77, you have all the weird aliens in the Tatooine bar, and then everybody else is human. And I do think George took that critique to heart, especially by the time you get to Return of the Jedi, where he got more money, got that toy money, and he starts putting in Admiral Akbar, and the Mon Cala are there, and Nine Nubs. Not Nine Nubs.
Nine Nubs.
Yeah, Nine Nubs. Nine Nubs. Yeah, with Lando going, speaking Swahili. So
and Lando ain't white.
And Lando ain't white. Lando ain't not white. A couple more women characters as well, kind of sparse in the background. So definitely by the time we get to the prequels, of course, and we'll talk about that more from an in-universe. You get all sorts of alien creatures and just special effects. So I do think like George kind of took that critique of like, oh yeah, there's not a lot of aliens here, and they're just kind of all in the background.
Hmm.
Kind of use that special effects budget. And I kind of and there's even been talk about like if George had kind of continued to develop, like, would the Empire had been all human villains? Would he have put more alien villains? Like
Hmm.
Masameda and Sly Moore and stuff like that. If he had the money and technology. So yeah, there's definitely that as part of been the kind of the evolution of aliens in Star
Hmm.
Wars. I do wonder, and obviously with Ahsoka coming through, I wonder if George would have been gone further. Like, let's just make some alien main characters.
Yeah.
Um, where kind of Star Wars. This one I guess point to Star Trek here.
Yeah.
In the non-existent competition,
Mhm.
Star Trek beats Star Wars in terms of the better use of aliens, even if they're
Yeah.
still just like little ridges on your head. There you go. That's an alien.
Or not. Like the Klingons didn't have ridges; they just had the eyebrows.
Yeah, the eyebrows and some wacky costumes.
But you
Uh,
had Nichelle Nichols on the bridge. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So it's point to Star Trek there, I guess, over Star
yeah,
Wars in the 70s. So
and
yeah,
60s.
and 60s.
Yeah.
No, Star Wars 77. So
Yeah, I know.
I definitely think I think they were kind of winning out
Yeah.
there for sure.
I mean, Ahsoka was George's character.
Right. So,
So.
I think that was just the continuing evolution of George
Mhm.
kind of maybe realizing, yeah, do more alien stuff. We
Mhm.
can we can do it.
And it's a lot easier in animation, right?
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. That's a big part of
I
it.
mean, Ash, you don't have to put Ashley Eckstein in makeup every day.
True. Although, you get a lot of good Jedi aliens, although those were probably like short-term cameos. So, I mean, not
Yeah, that's
cameos.
just it, right? In Attack of the Clones or whatever, that's
But we remember them. We remember Kit Fisto just like,
well, we remember him also because of the Mount Cal arc in Clone Wars, right?
well, that too. But I think it
Yeah,
starts with Attack of the Clones, just like, that's a cool-looking squid
yeah.
guy. Um, but, yeah, as you said, this
Mhm,
has been a thing that expanded universe authors going back to the early days have sort of taken and evolved over time.
mhm,
And I think it goes back, the Empire is racist thing obviously goes back to A New Hope
mhm.
when Han and Luke are stormtroopers pretending to take Chewie as
Right.
prisoner, and then the Imperial officer just looks at Chewie and goes, "Where are you taking this thing?" So blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so I think that definitely, kind of is the first indicator of like, oh, you consider Chewie a thing? No,
Right.
so you get I think it's really heavy in the 90s and a little bit of the late 80s when we're developing the Empire beyond the films. And they really want to just, really hammer home that yes, the Empire is a fascist empire.
Mhm.
I've always said this, and I still stand by this I stand by something I said a while ago where it's like, George Lucas has always done world building in terms of vibes, not maybe in terms of like I don't want to know if substance is the right word, but
Mm.
it's certainly like it's not George R. R. Martin where it's like you got the
Right.
technicals and it's like here's the realm and here's how the succession works and here's how you got to do
Yeah.
this thing and
Right.
it's very like the Empire is fascist because we are vibing it. They're called
Yeah.
stormtroopers. They have the black, red, and white. You have the
There's the importance of symbols.
yeah, they got those symbols. You got the
There it is.
colors.
There's my answer, Joel.
You got the colors. You got the kind of the military uniforms. You got sometimes they're British.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like that kind of
Mhm.
the vibes are there, but not in terms of like this is the imperial parties that Palpatine founded, and they did the march on
Right.
Coruscant, blah 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 blah. You know,
Oh, sorry.
but then things like the imperial guidebook. Oop, you froze for like 5 seconds. There you go.
No,
You
I'm
could
just sitting very still.
Okay, you got the Imperial Guidebook, creating like Comp Nor, which is like the Imperial political party organization. You get the
Right.
New Order ideology,
Mhm.
which is again something from the source book, and obviously the idea of like the Empire is human supremacists, like they are
Mhm.
the Empire for the humans, and humans have always been the dominant species in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And that affected world building in the 90s quite a bit because they really hammered home the idea that the core worlds were a lot more homogeneous. Is it homogeneous or homogeneous? I always forget how you.
I think
I always say
they could be synonyms. I think they're synonyms.
Homogenously human, like 99% human are core worlds, and that's where the Empire support world is. And the further out you go, that's where more of the wacky aliens are. Um, so you get a lot of that idea of like, yeah, you have these rich core worlds that are all human and
Hmm.
human dominated, and the Empire is just the ultimate expression of that human domination over everybody else.
Hmm.
For a lot of 90s stuff. And you got people like Pelion just like looking down on Rook. It's like, oh, the Nogri, those alien people.
Hmm.
He doesn't do that with Thrawn because he thinks Thrawn's. Although Thrawn weirdly is like humans and Nogri, those lower species.
That's true.
I'm better
Yeah.
than everybody. So he got his own racism.
Hmm.
Thrawn's a racist. He's just not racist. He's just racist towards non-chiss. He thinks humans are just as lowly as anybody else. Um, rev-
Yeah.
but there's definitely that, and people like Jabba the Hutt are aliens, but they're like in the periphery.
Hmm.
So like they're like the crime lords and stuff, which has its own problems because like aliens always being crime lords, it's kind of like you know drug lords are all Hispanic
Hmm.
stereotype kind of thing, which is a whole other situation we could get into some other day
Sure.
of crime and aliens. So you get a lot of that in like the 80s and 90s world building of Star Wars. But then
Hmm.
again, the prequels happened. The prequels are and then of course the Emperor being like notoriously anti-alien, like he's a full-on racist towards aliens, and it's like how did Thrawn become a Grand Admiral even though the Emperor is like notoriously hates.
Hmm.
Which again kind of wavers because the only thing we ever see of the Emperor again in storytelling is Dark Empire, and he has alien servants as like his Dark Jedi. This is
Yeah.
before the Emperor was proclaimed a Sith, so it's a little weirder
Hmm.
of how we're used to things being portrayed. Um, but then again, the prequels happen, and then you get Palpatine having a alien apprentice in Darth Maul. You see the core world's filled with aliens. Look at all these alien senators in the Republic.
Hmm.
Look at the opera house scene. You see like Mon Cala go into the theater. They're all nice and yes, Daisy. British is an excellent indicator of evil. Um, you got
Hmm.
George Lucas as a blue guy in the opera.
Oh, yeah.
So
Pantoran. Yeah.
Pantoran. So you kind of like after the prequels, the world building kind of has to now mesh the world
Hmm.
building of the prequels with the 90s and
Hmm.
then kind of like still do the human supremacy thing, but humans are kind of now on the rise. There's a scene in Plagueis where Plagueis goes, "The future will belong to humans." Um, and
Hmm.
obviously with separatists all being aliens, Palpatine's trying to stir up anti-alien sentiment because of that, etc.,
Right.
etc. So you got the human high supremacy thing kind of wavers and ebbs and flows because of how world building just builds on the original trilogy, just that, and then
Right.
kind of having to now, oh shoot, the prequels are kind of showing a different thing, so now Legends kind of has to like smush the two together and kind of make it make sense. And you get the reset in 2012, and now it's like, okay, now we have just the originals, the prequels, and the Clone Wars. Let's build off of that.
Hmm.
And again, I think again that human high supremacy thing is kind of like brought back in with some authors because they still like the Legends material, and then other times it's a little bit more opaque, especially
Hmm.
on screen compared to off screen. Um, Although again, you kind of have the on again, off again stuff depending on like who the good guys are and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I also think in some way that we can get into this. I also think it's like maybe just showing like different types of racism and not just like what we think is racism, because racism at its I mean, racism has always been a thing, but I think modern racism
Mm.
is a newer thing compared to what like and I wrote this down like what Roman Empire racism would be, and I'll get into that
Yeah.
later. But that's my rambling. Just kind of your thoughts on like the back behind the scenes of in universe human high supremacy.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Because like you're saying, authors either had other fish to fry, like I was saying.
Mhm.
Um, so why they didn't get into it, or why they do bring it up, that becomes the fish that they want to fry, like Chris Gemshaw
Mhm.
wants to make this point. And you follow him on Instagram, you see the kinds of things he posts in stories. It's very clear his perspective, and it's laudable that he posts and shares so openly his perspectives. Um, yeah, it it's fun. It's fascinating just how inconsistent it is. I will say, again, we'll go into this too. I think that is reflected also in Palpatine's own choices. Right,
Mhm.
he makes exceptions for himself because he probably doesn't care. He
Right.
probably just thinks this. We're talking about in-universe stuff, but he probably thinks that this human supremacy thing is just useful to
Mhm.
keep everyone in line and keep things away from me so I can focus on my immortality project. But
Right.
and satisfy all the humans groveling around him.
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like he has Maul, he has Masameda
Mhm.
to the end. He has Sly Moore you mentioned. So even in Return of the Jedi,
Mhm.
they got Yup Tishu and all that. I mean, I guess Yup Tishu is a human, but
Yeah, he's a human.
it seems like I one of the sense that some of his advisors in Return of the Jedi that on the Death Star, the ones that leave the room when Luke and Vader come in,
I
some of
think
them
they
aren't human.
are human. They're just very creepy
Okay,
humans.
maybe fair enough, but
They're just.
like Palpatine himself. Okay,
Mhm.
but I mean, it's true. The Empire is very human, and then the Rebel Alliance is a lot more mixed. But
Right.
uh, so that I could see George taking that to heart. The Seventh Samurai thing that I was getting at before, mentioned before. Yeah, with the Ewoks, that's not a very human centric thing for the rebellion to do.
Mhm.
So,
It would have been interesting to see if George would have committed to just keeping the human empire, or if you would have seen more aliens in Imperial ranks. Because this is where I'm gonna go into like
mhm,
my ye old racism versus mod today
yeah,
racism. Um, and where I think maybe in some ways canon is trying to maybe fit. Um,
hmm,
I put it down here. Where did I put it? There we go. When they made a lot of those books in the 80s and 90s, they were really going off of Nazi Germany. Like, the Aryan race will rule the world, and, because of the
mhm,
symbolism and all that, red, white, black, and all that. So I think they really just
yeah,
like, no, the Galactic Empire is space Nazi Germany.
sure,
Um, Full stop, human supremacy, blah, blah, blah. And I think George in particular, well, I definitely think he took a lot from that, obviously. I also think he took a lot from just history in general. And, he looked at
mhm,
Rome. Rome is a multi ethnic empire. There's no
mhm,
Roman ethnicity, really.
right,
Um, you can't. You go from France to Turkey.
mhm,
It's a big, it's a big empire.
mhm,
Um, so I think there was more of a, if George would probably go in a racism kind of a situation. I think it's like a cultural,
yeah,
civic racism where it's like, your skin color, and which is kind of how you used to. It's like your skin color didn't stop you from could be Roman, but it's like, if you eventually learn Greek or Latin,
mhm,
you can be one of us, basically. Like you can kind of join the in group
yeah.
eventually. You have to earn your
I
dues.
think discrimination was based more on class and on family connections and things like that, and
Right, like,
status, right? Oh, and yeah, again, class.
and I think the idea, at least how I kind of view it, and maybe this and how maybe Star Wars is viewing it to some extent, is
Mhm,
you can join the core culture versus outer rim culture is now a
yeah,
thing, right? Like Masameda is a chagrin. I forget
Green.
it.
Yeah,
Chagrin. I don't think he cares about the chagrin culture if there ever was one.
mhm,
He dresses up in fancy core robes and does core politician things. It's like or the Twilight Senator, Senator what's his name, or Free he's a
yeah,
big old chunky senator core world. He wear robes and stuff.
yeah,
Um, So, I think I always sort of think that modern Star Wars, maybe to some extent, and maybe some of it just to like, hey, let's have some alien bad guys too, because that's always fun. Is less
Hmm.
hardened human supremacy, aliens out, humans in, and more of a core culture. Maybe
Hmm.
it's human origins, but you can kind of become part of it if you speak the language and you know wear your proper clothes and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, although this is again where you kind of get depictions of the empire, where it's like, well, the military and security forces are always humans. It's
Yeah.
the civilian side is a lot more alien centric, like
Hmm.
with that one senator guy doing the initiation of the senators in Andor and Masameda. But yeah, I'll toss this one to you. Like, 'cause you
Yeah.
probably know more about Rome and how you get to be Roman. Um,
Hmm.
I've never heard stories of like, oh, you dark skinned, so
Hmm.
therefore you're out forever. Where
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of racism kind of starts more in the 19th century and 20th,
Yeah.
especially.
Well, I mean,
I mean, it's always probably going to
Hey,
be there.
16, 17. Yeah, like
Okay, 16th,
with
17th.
the British,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Always the British. It's
and like yeah, having getting into Africa, like yes, Daisy, here you go. Yeah, so I was listening to a podcast last summer on this the 1700th year of the Council of Nicaea and kind of the issues. This is when Constantine brought all the bishops together and said, "You guys got to agree on this because you're splitting up my empire. Knock it off." Anyway, one of the interesting points, kind of in the backdrop, was that yeah, like racism, as we know it, like you're saying, was more based um on class,
Mhm,
on uh, was not patronage, well patronage too, but um, like your pedigree,
mhm,
you know, especially. But here's the thing, right? At least in the middle empire, if you're part of the Romanitas, if you're part of the Roman paterfamilias, the families,
mhm.
that was your way. That you could be in the Senate, you could have wealth, and then, but if you're a slave, then you were a slave, right? It's
Right.
and so, but I mean, think of an example like someone like Augustine, who uh, late fourth century, right? I think I should know this. Um, he this was after Nicaea, right? He was or late fifth century, I think. I mean, he's from North Africa, like he was mixed, right? He was half black, half white,
Right.
from Carthage, and he makes it. He goes up into Italy and becomes super famous, but his whole struggle is I got to conform to the way of the world, the way of the Roman world,
Mhm.
and that is a very Roman controlled world.
Right.
And so, yeah, he goes to Milan, whatever. The Roman influence very strong, obviously in central Italy.
Mhm.
And by Italy, I mean the Italian peninsula. I mean the geographic region.
Right.
Um, they did have this thing like the Goths and the Vandals and
Mhm.
all this, where those other outside folks
Mhm.
who do end up coming and sacking Rome a couple, well, no, like in Augustine's lifetime. But I mean, he actually ends up going back to Carthage and becoming the bishop there and becoming basically the pastor there to all these folks who have different levels of literacy and different levels of status and wealth. And
Mhm.
um, that's part of his conversion, if you will, is to say, I'm not going to be racist or classist. That's maybe a way of putting it is racism and classism are kind of conflated, and it was more about classism, not classism was this very prominent discriminatory force. And so, yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, again, conforming to the Roman way of things. So, like you mentioned with Masamida,
Mhm.
he's conforming to the Coruscanti human way of doing things, right?
Right.
And on Frita, and we see the tension with Orfrita has with Cham Syndulla, right?
Right.
That's probably part of it. Is forgotten the heritage of his people for this advancement in this very Coruscant core centered world.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas someone like the Organas, they can get away with funding the rebellion until they can't. But that's another thing, like, I mean, Alderaan and then Operation Cinder. Yes, we're kind of right going all over canon here, but both Alderaan and Operation Cinder are the point of them is that they're human. Well, I mean, with no, what's that planet? Davos, not where Iden, where the Versiers are from.
Oh,
Bardos.
Bardos.
The point of that, of course, is nobody's safe,
Right.
but and it's this kind of random wanton thing. But yeah, like they're and that's also the point of Alderaan, right? So it's shocking because I think you mentioned this on a podcast in an episode before. Alderaan is shocking because they're human.
Right.
Um, the Organas have a darker skin, but they're human. It's in the core. They're wealthy, and yet
Right.
even their senator, who is the princess and the heir apparent, can't stop the Death Star. So it's an example of human centrism, oddly enough. But
Right. One thing I think I wanted to bring up as well, and I'm going to go back and forth a lot between production stuff and real
yeah,
in-universe stuff a lot. I do think one reason they chose human centrism over like full on just white racism,
mm-hmm.
um, is and I think this is for the best. Is that, I do think you don't want to discriminate against anybody who wants to be a bad guy, right? You don't want to like Giancarlo Esposito's dark skinned man. Um, you don't want to say, oh, you can't play him because all the Imperial have to be white, right?
Yeah.
You want some good, or even like female villains if you want to do
Well, I
some,
was talking with the glass floor last week with like Darth Zana,
yeah, you
right?
know.
Similar
I
kind of
mean,
thing, right? I think.
no, I mean, I mean, cis are a little different. I'm just
Well,
talking
my
about like
point
real
being,
villains.
you know, like there's the concept of the glass floor where um it's 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 sexist, obviously, the glass ceiling to say women can't be the heroes, but also it's also bad to idealize female characters or minority characters too much. Could be kind of token or performative or just putting on a pedestal when a really complex villain is just as just as expressive of the full range of our real world human experience is what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I love Giancarlo Esposito, so
Oh
give
my
him up.
gosh. And in the boys, amazing in the boys too.
Oh, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
he's excellent in everything
Yeah, that's
he's
true.
in. So yeah, I think there's also a big reason for that as well.
Hmm.
It is interesting, kind of. Again, I think especially with depictions of the Empire. Again, I think a lot of it is like, well, are we going full on Nazi Germany, Aryan race, human
Hmm.
supremacy? Or are we going with that more subtlety of like maybe a mix of like America today and well, America always, quite frankly.
Hmm.
Forget America today, America quite always. Because
Hmm.
here's kind of my hot take about America. I can't speak for Canada, but I can speak a little bit for Europe.
Hmm.
I would argue, well, regardless of our many problems,
Hmm.
it's easier to integrate into American society than it is to be a European. Because A, much like the Star Wars Empire and the Republic, which obviously are the same thing, America is still not a very homogeneous society. We
Hmm.
even like white people are like what 60%, maybe even less, 50.
They're
But
going to
you
be the
compare that
minority
to
soon, right?
yeah, but compare that to like France or
Yeah.
UK or Germany.
Hmm.
You know, Germany's 90% German, ethnic German white,
Yeah.
and it's really hard, at least from what I heard, to be someone who's not from there to kind
Mhm.
of integrate even a generation in where, I mean, here's it's hard too. Don't get me wrong, to get in the country, and there's always gonna be
Sure.
racism. But it's like if even if you speak even with a little bit of an accent, but if your English is pretty well, and it's like I like the football and I'm watching the big baseball game, have a beer, like
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier. Americans, we're not like we love our Mexican food and Chinese food and other ethnic food anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we just think it's ours. We all think it's ours anyway. So I mean,
Mhm.
again, it depends on the region you live.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to necessarily say like it's all like there's definitely some places like, oh, there's census this is still super white. But in the big cities still,
Yeah.
that's still it's like where I live. Like, oh, I always see plenty of non-white people everywhere.
Yeah.
Where it's like you go to again UK, well maybe not the UK, but definitely UK's kind of changed a little bit. But you have to go France or Germany.
Mhm.
It's like you go to a big city, it's still pretty white. Or Japan. Japan's like a great example. They
Mhm.
are. I've heard about some story about Japan. They are very xenophobic. They
Mhm.
are. They do not like having immigrants, and that's a problem because their population's going down. But like they are very like, nope, Japan. You know,
Yeah.
tourists are one thing, but living here. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but I definitely know, like again, I think
Mhm.
here, and that's why I think maybe that's why in some ways depicting the empire today is a little bit different
Mhm.
because look, Trump racist probably, but there's still some token people of color in his cabinet. I think the FBI guy's like Indian. I know JD Vance's
Yeah.
wife is also Indian. I
Although
think.
that got complicated this past week,
I
but
know, but but
yeah.
again, it's sort of like in America, even like racism in America, especially on the
Mhm.
right, there's still a reason why. I mean, this could still change, of course, but even
Mhm.
today, there's still a reason why, like the hardcore, we want white only nation
Mhm.
can't gain traction nationally. The only way that could happen really is like if society broke down and like little balkanized. But like nationally, that's gonna be very hard to like even get a majority because like eh, eh, I you know
Mhm.
I feel a little awkward talking about racism as two white guys, but I'll talk about it anyway. Um, it's
Mhm.
racism today is a lot more subtle in some ways sinister
Mhm.
because it's not, you don't see, like, I mean, I'm sure you maybe in the South, sure. But, naturally, I think there's still a lot of people who are like, you don't see people going like, oh, the bleeps gotta go back to cotton farms and pick this thing, blah, blah. It's like, it's more
Yeah.
subtle. It's more like you kind of might side eye a guy because he didn't look like
Mhm.
you. But at the same time, if you have a person of color neighbor who it's even if you're still kind of subtly racist, but you have you might like, oh yeah, that's Omar.
Mhm.
We were gonna watch the game or something. Like even though
Yeah.
kind of like it's a little bit more
So my best
sinister.
friends are black.
In some ways, yeah, but it's kind of like you don't
That
realize
kind of
it,
thing. Yeah.
that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and that's why I think
Yeah.
maybe, and also so again, I think that's why because George with the prequel kind of maybe said that
Mhm.
the main population centers of the galaxy are not as homogenous as maybe the old EU authors thought they were.
Mhm.
Where the kind of the human high supremacy stuff is a lot more toned down in the Empire, not
Yeah.
as violently rhetorical as it say would
Mhm.
have been. Because
Yeah.
again, I think that's why evil mustache German man could go full on because Germany's a very ethnically homogenous state, so you can say those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Whereas like Italy, even Russia, you can't. You can be a little chauvinistic at times, but it's still a very ethnically not homogeneous
Heterogeneous.
heterogeneous society. So like
Yeah.
just practically, it would be hard to do that kind of ethnic nationalism
Yeah.
in a way that you can do it in a more homogenous society. And I think that's
So
another big
yeah.
reason for it.
I mean, maybe to summarize what you're saying, I think in English, like the Anglophone West, so UK, Ireland, Canada, US. Maybe not so much Ireland, but UK, Canada, US. It's a lot more heterogeneous, and then but in a lot of Western Europe, Central Europe, it's a lot more homogeneous.
Hmm.
Um, I think maybe to put it that way, then racism here in because and this is this weird effect of colonialism. Maybe a
Hmm.
silver lining a little bit is they all come to London and come to New York and come to Toronto and come to LA, like all these different ethnicities. I mean, Hong Kong, when the Hong Kong changeover happened in 1998, just before, tons of folks from Hong Kong came to Toronto and Vancouver especially
Mhm.
because hey, Commonwealth country, we want to be in a democracy. We don't want to be part of China. So all that to say though is, yeah, immigration just happened more gradually over time, and therefore both the development of racist attitudes and habits and more inclusive attitudes and habits developed more gradually, whereas here, in France and Germany, it's happening now, right? And yes, France had Algeria and had others, but
France is a little stranger because
yeah,
they actually tried to do real on integration and that didn't work out for them.
yeah,
Um,
but it's now considered, France having a Muslim problem, Germany having a Muslim problem, or whatever,
right.
whereas UK kind of had had its enclaves, but I mean there were uh folks from Jamaica and folks from sub-Saharan Africa and all over. There's a large black population in London, and so again with France and Germany, it's happening now all at once, and they struggle to deal with it. With Italy, the migration crisis, because again, I'm going to talk about the Pope again. Pope Francis in 2013, the first thing he did was go to this island just off of, I think, off of Libya. That's Italian territory called Lampedusa. That's where a lot of folks come up, they brave the perilous ocean, the Mediterranean rather, and catch a boat, and then try and get into mainland Europe through that way. So all that to say, is racism in Star Wars and human centrism in Star Wars, is it more on the Roman model? Is it more on the Central Western European model, continental European model, or is it more on the British American model, the Anglo American model? Um, you know, uh, I mean, I don't know how well New Zealand and Australia fit into that. Daisy, you can let us know. Fit into that kind of way of mapping things out, but
It's
yeah.
yeah. I
Or I
mean,
mean, South Africa was also a British colony, but that
oh,
has
South Africa is a whole different
South
story.
Africa is definitely also on the German model, but
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast about this a while back and talk about like nationalism and stuff like that. And
yeah,
somebody once said ethnic nationalism is a response to botched civic nationalism,
hmm,
where like, and they were talking about how like the British, I think, did try early on to like make Britishism less of a ethnic thing and more like
yeah,
a, drink your tea, God save the Queen, etc., etc. You can
hmm,
be British. That
yeah,
didn't work
a
out. So
good
it's like,
Englishman.
and that didn't work out. And then it's
Hmm,
like, well, white people, they'll just save it to white people. Then it's like, and
hmm,
that's probably a big reason why the empire fell because they couldn't integrate everybody.
hmm,
Um,
yeah,
whereas,
maybe,
funny enough, again, I think for all our problems, and I think we still have it. There is kind of a reason why even today, although hang on. Ah,
yeah,
am I
yeah,
good?
yeah.
There we go.
Hmm.
Hello, hello.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah,
Where even today, the most hardened, like, I mean, maybe it'll change. I hope not. But
hmm,
like overt white nationalism in America,
yeah,
like Ku Klux Klan types, there's still a minority even in the coalition of the
yeah,
right. They're still kind of on the fringe. Whereas, like,
hmm,
you can, Trump can talk about immigrants and stuff like that, but
hmm,
but the thing is, or the more subtlety, even like in the '80s with dog whistling. But again, there's still a reason why a lot of like Latino people, there's like not, like Latino did vote for Trump pretty in high numbers this
wow,
time around. If they integrated, I think those who voted were more integrated into America.
yeah, and they
Um,
didn't expect necessarily something oddly. I don't know how they didn't expect this, but they didn't expect something like ICE.
I mean, I think they thought, hey, I'm a rich Republican middle class Latino. Like again, I think
Yeah.
it's more of a class thing. I
Hmm.
think in a weird way the Roman class thing still applies a lot
Yeah.
because it's like, well, maybe it's like there's a reason why the poor, poor Latinos who can't come into this country are the
Hmm.
ones who get snatched up by us, but like the middle class, business people probably don't. Uh,
I don't know. I think
and
it's all over the place. But yeah.
I mean, I don't think, I mean, I think we're kind of in the place where they don't discriminate at this point.
Yeah.
But I think, again, I think, there's a reason why a lot of minorities did vote for Trump still, though,
Hmm.
'cause I don't think they cared. Like,
Yeah.
they're immigrants. I'm American. That's what,
Right.
because America is kind of opaque ideas. We
Hmm.
tried. I mean, we've had people who tried to make it about like white and stuff like that, but it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, we always say we're the nation of immigrants,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So but like, it's a kind of maybe even dare I say easier to say like American nationalism is like not about skin color, but like these ideas, but like we don't want people from Mexico coming in and be American with our football and our Chinese American food.
Right. It's
Right?
these cultural symbols.
Yeah.
Trappings. You're still answering my question there from Visions. um. Yeah. I mean, it's whenever we're freaking out about Trump, and you're like, okay, this has been decades. This has been over a century of one aspect of American history that's just interweaved and embedded. And that's kind of my point. Is it's one aspect, and then the urban, inclusive, uh, and northern to some extent perspective. That's another aspect that just being they kind of here's the word dilute each other a
Mhm.
little bit. Whereas again, for Central Europe and Western Europe, it's been here's this one culture, and now all of a sudden there's this whole new thing that everyone has to adjust to. When there's this rapid change, that's another thing is uh, multiculturalism, diversity in North America and UK is uh, has this longer story, and so yeah, the discrimination, racism is maybe quieter, is more overt. Now it's not popular, right? It's not politically correct,
I
and so
mean,
people
I'll
kind
say
of bristle at
this:
this. Well, let
there's,
me finish my point. In that, um, where in Central Western Europe, just it's not being part of the history. So when you have to deal with some rapid change, as we know,
Mhm,
there are some folks who embrace it on one extreme wholeheartedly, and the other extreme
mhm,
folks who violently oppose it. And then there's this middle, this bell curve of folks um, who aren't sure and are mixed. And so then the violent opposition, I mean, that's the sexy clickbait. They get more traction,
right.
and so, I mean, that being said, that far right party in Germany that Elon Musk supports, they aren't getting much traction either. And I do wonder if Germany's diversifying better than say France is. Um, but yeah,
I mean, there's even a reason why, for all crazy and racist as he is, Trump's not going, I'm going to make America a white nation only. That's not popular and that's still on the fringes.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the
he'll
people.
get subtly, probably the policies will affect that, but he's not outright
Yeah,
saying it. And you
I
can say
mean,
like that's because that's the long term plan, or maybe because
yeah,
legit that just can't work because of the way our nation's set up. That just can't work these
I
days.
mean, but I mean, Project 25. It's kind of implied,
Yeah, but I
and the
think
folks he set up in his cabinet, and
yeah, I mean sure.
with some exceptions, right?
I mean,
Like
granted,
tough, he made exceptions, but
I think to be fair, I think people over exaggerate what's going on here because state capacity just does not exist. Like our state's just so hollowed out. Like they
right,
couldn't do it if they tried. They're operating on duct tape. Like everyone's always saying, "Ooh, ICE is so scary." ICE is just a bunch of idiots. I mean, sure, they're scary with gun, but like they don't have the capacity. They're not. They're not smart.
I mean, they have done quite a bit,
It's still a little
but
bit.
they're able here. Well, here's maybe to your point.
Mhm.
They're also able to be opposed, right?
Oh, easily.
The mayor of
It's easy
Chicago
to.
is able to stand up to them.
It's
Uh,
so easy to do
you know,
it.
Gavin Newsom is standing up to him tomorrow. In the
I mean,
gerrymandering.
again, I think a lot of media just over exaggerates what's really going on here, like if they do
Mm.
everywhere. To be fair,
Well, yeah. I mean,
um,
talking about the Middle East, right?
yeah, I mean that's true too. I mean, I saw someone who traveled to Burkina Faso the other day, and it's like, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But the point is,
Yeah. Back to Star Wars.
back to Star Wars. I think um, it is kind of an interesting thing of like of
Hmm.
if fascism is supposed to protect a certain status quo, what was the status quo? There is
Hmm.
no, we do see alien repression, sure, but we also see the
Hmm.
Empire oppress a lot of human people too. It's like when you ever see like a crowd, it's like aliens and humans. So it's like there
Hmm.
is no real discrepancy with the Empire. Where again, this is where I think that they dilute a lot of the human supremacy stuff, or maybe not dilute, but just don't deal with it. It's like
Yeah.
whenever you see the Empire pressing or just shooting people, it's like just the Empire. They shoot anybody. They shoot humans. They shoot aliens. It's like
They shoot gore,
they say
which are
gore
humans.
humans. They blow up Alderaan. It's like the Empire is just evil in general. It's like
Hmm.
they don't discriminate against people. They just no, but you pose us, bam, you're dead.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, this is why I think like Bad Batch. I mean, Bad Batch is actually interesting because like it doesn't get into human supremacy, but it does get into like clones are viewed as the other, for lack of a better term. Actually, no,
Hmm.
that's the term I want to use because that's a big part of fascism is kind of needing the other.
Hmm.
And the Empire is repressing clones. They don't see them as human or people.
Hmm.
Um, but the Empire and droids is definitely another. So again, it's that kind of
Yeah.
that weird thing of like of making the Empire full on racist and also kind of not at the same time,
Hmm.
or even like here's kind of like Ahsoka, since we talked about that. You know, the Empire, Thrawn's not talking about human high supremacy when he's again. I guess maybe this is the subtlety of maybe not just having it so on the nose.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not. I mean, obviously that he can't really talk about human high supremacy. He's not a human.
Hmm.
Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't care about Night Sister culture at all. Really, like he
Yeah.
could say it to the witches, but it's like the minute Dathomir is no longer useful, he's gonna bombard that culture no matter what, or take some cool stuff with
Hmm.
him. It's like, okay, I'm done with you guys. You are no longer of use to me. So
Yeah. I
eat some
mean, I don't
bugs.
know if he'll bombard them, but
He might. He did that with. I mean, that was the whole thing about the Nogri in the original Thrawn trilogy, where
right.
like you have these alien creatures who are like Thrawn's bodyguards, and
Yeah.
Thrawn sees them as this kind of primitive beast
Sure.
compared to I am a civilized chiss.
Yeah. I mean, if he has a reason to, a reason to like on Peridea, that
And I mean,
bombardment.
Thrawn did that as punishment for failing, so he just
Right.
like he was
Yeah.
just being cruel.
There was a reason
You
for him,
failed.
at least. Um, yeah, I can see that happening. I would be fascinated. This is just a bit of an aside, but
Mhm.
um, if they're able to tap into
Ah.
the Grievous invasion during the Clone Wars and say repeating that trauma,
Oh, I hope so.
that'd be fascinating if they're able to reference that somehow. But
I
yeah,
think.
it also that goes to show. I mean, the Clone Wars. I mean, Beaumont Kin makes a big point of how the Clone Wars did have a lot of different. This may be another. It's a bit of uh, a gear shift here, but the Clone Wars. Beaumont Kin makes point out the Clone Wars had all sorts of the Separatists had all sorts of
Mhm.
species, Outer Rim species seceding, both for nefarious reasons and for what we would say very legitimate grievances,
Mhm.
and that definitely contributed. So it's I mean, almost to say it's hard to say how. What am I trying to get at? You have this Kalish cyborg taking out all these Dathomiri witches that are closer to human than a Kalish is, as far
Mhm.
as we know.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how do we? I guess how do we define that by physical characteristics? But
Well, I
yeah,
mean, Wookiees are viewed as things over
yeah,
and are over chagrin for some reason.
Over Chagrians, yeah.
Although it's funny because there were Wookiee senators, so
Because Wookiees can't speak basic.
that's true.
I don't know if that's
Maybe that's the first thing. It's like maybe that's more the Roman thing. If you got to first speak the language,
Mhm,
speak basic.
mhm.
Chitrin, Mon Calacan, and Wookiees just can't, and so you're out.
Yeah,
You're gonna
maybe.
like Geonosians. I don't think that the Geonosian who speaks basic, so you're out. You just speak the whole.
That was a good impression of Genos. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Krennic apparently can speak Geonosian though a little bit, so that's kind of cool.
Mhm,
Well, that's actually another thing about the Separatists. Just to go back to them
mhm,
and how they've used production reasons to kind of get the human high cultures thing
mhm,
going. The leader, the rallying point of the Separatists was a human, Dooku, even though he surrounded himself with aliens. And there was some racist propaganda of like,
mhm.
Dooku's controlled by the evil corporations and they're like a bunch of aliens and stuff like that. So like how the Empire said the Hutts secretly control the New Republic from pulling the strings.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that there kind of there's a lot of good kind of racial stuff in the propaganda book in terms of aliens.
By good, you mean juicy,
Yeah,
interesting
just,
story.
yeah, just
Just
stuff.
clarify what we mean
Yeah,
there.
yeah, some good juicy good stuff
Yeah,
there.
it's
Um,
right here. I need to give it another leaf
it's
through.
it's very good.
Yeah,
So like you're
it's
like
One
there's a
Piece.
picture of Dooku, but like behind him, Grievous's scary eyes glaring
Yeah,
at you. So it's interesting again, kind of all the major leaders of the Empire Rebellion, and then of
yeah,
the Separatists are all humans.
and the New
Uh,
Republic.
but yeah, Rebels, New Republic, kind of the same thing. But yeah, and Resistance, and eventually Resistance, all humans.
Yeah.
Um, you know, kind of that was a big thing Beaumont Kin made as well.
Hmm.
It kind of shows that how important humans are to
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I guess the only leader, non-human, true human leader of a faction is, I guess, Snoke, because he's humanoid. I don't think he's actually technically a human.
Right.
They just say he's humanoid. Um,
I mean, do we know actually what he is? Like, we've
no,
never. Yeah,
they just say humanoid, but
he was
I
an
don't think he's
attempted
actually human.
cloning thing. Yeah.
He's
Okay.
a Strandcast experiment. So,
Yeah.
but I don't. I mean, I think Snoke actually isn't human, biologically human.
Right.
Same way Palpatine is, but he's humanoid.
Sure.
I guess Thrawn too, for like a
Yeah.
little bit.
Well, there's
But
the whole near human thing, which is itself a pretty racist term.
right,
Near human. You're not quite. We're the frame of reference. You know.
right. That's why Thrawn can kind of get in because outside the blue, kind of
Yeah.
looks. He kind of looks next human
Is he a
enough.
Pantoran? Remember that in the first Thrawn novel? Pantoran? What?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of why. But
Yeah.
it is interesting. I've always kind of wondered though, like with the Empire again, we're kind of going all over the place. I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's right.
but it's interesting that the military is very human dominated,
Hmm.
where the civilian government is not. And I've always found that interesting, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
Slymore, Mos Mayor are civilian jobs, for lack of a
Mhm.
better term.
Yeah.
You,
I mean, who cares about the human government? What's the military that's really in charge,
it's true,
right?
right?
I mean, who has more power?
Right.
Uh, well, who has more power, Masamune and Sly Moore or Wilf Tarkin?
It's true. Um,
Easy answer there.
That's
So
true.
is
And
that?
and
Yeah,
that's why Palpatine probably let Masameda be the Grand Vizier and run the Empire day to day. It's like, yeah, no one's gonna support him in a coup.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
your
Who
power
cares?
comes from me. Um,
Um, I do think it's interesting though because you've talked about the Empire.
mhm,
You mentioned this, right? The Rebel Alliance and the Rebel Alliance and the New Republic and the Resistance also having a lot of white human leadership.
mhm,
Because the Resistance ultimately, uh, they do a good job with you know with Poe and Finn and then Ray being a woman. But I was struck at Andor. I mean, it does a good job that third arc, which is so brilliant in that last episode of that third arc. such a brilliant job of underlining why the Rebel Alliance needs Mon Mothma.
Mhm.
But it's wild. It needs this core white woman to go with a British accent to go save them. It's just fascinating. I mean, and now that fourth arc is her kind of shedding. I mean, it is her shedding her core, kind of. Yeah, I guess what's the word? Assumptions and trappings, I should say, right? With the hair and the clothes and everything,
Mhm.
and she's just sitting in amongst everybody. But yeah, even then,
They're
I
still
mean,
humans. There's still actually quite a
yeah,
lot
there's
of
still lots of humans in there. That's true. There aren't very many aliens. I mean, I think that might just, I think that almost be a stylistic choice on the part of Andor, right?
I
Because
mean, probably, but
I know
the
with Battlestar Galactica, for example,
Mhm.
the 2004 Battlestar Galactica refused to have aliens. I know the 1980 one did have aliens, I believe,
Hmm.
but the 2004 one refused to. Something that would have distracted from the edge of the story. That being said, in Star Wars, yeah, you can make it a stylistic choice, but it's still it's this weird thing where I mean, well, an interesting theme. I mean, a theme in Andor.
Mhm.
Uh, you have Luthen and you have Saw being like, are you going to be giving in to the Empire's methods here? Um, and the Rebel Alliance response is kinda in the sense of having this clearer sense of organization, clearer sense of discipline, right? Chain of command. Whereas, and even rules of engagement to some extent. Whereas, uh, Saw and and Luthen don't care about those things. But also to say we need humans to take the lead in this Rebel Alliance because the experience with that organization. I'm thinking of this guy, Markion, letting Gura Staros sort of organize the Nile into a legitimate government. Of course, he's kind of it's the kind of a
Blows it
Masamita
up.
situation.
Blows it up.
Yeah, he blows it up, but it's kind of a Masamita situation where he's like, okay, do your thing. I don't
Oh,
care.
no, I don't. Yeah, but I don't want to think of Masameda and Palpatine the same way Gars, Marky on Row and Garrett Stars, if you know what I mean. I
Well, sure. Well, whatever. Why not?
mean, I think
But
Masameda probably wants that, but
yeah, you never know. Wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I mean, and that so it's a similar question, and how the Rebel Alliance has to kind of be complicit in this human centrism in order to know how to be successful and navigate the success. And yet, will there be a reckoning? Maybe it can. Here's the thing. Okay, so the Ray film is this container for all these unanswered leftover things that are lurking from the Skywalker saga. So, what do we do with the Jedi after that? One of the things is, what kind of government do we want to have after that? Will there be a reckoning for the way that? Here's a question for Beaumont Kin that I think he deals with in Rise and Fall.
Mhm.
Will there be a reckoning for the way that all these good guys were very human led? Um, and what do you do with that, right? It's almost like our own complicity in capitalism, right?
Right.
You know, we're on these Google and Meta platforms right now talking about Star Wars, uh, probably YouTube and Facebook.
Mhm.
Um, but and then I'm gonna go, earn my salary and buy my groceries and go to my restaurants and all that, watch our movies and give Disney lots of money. I guess yeah, maybe that's kind of reckoning I'll want to see. This will be interesting. I want to see, there's something to. It's gonna sound horrible. Um, ugh, how do I put this? How do I want to put this? Here's the thing about privilege is, well, there's a few things of privilege. We constantly have to be aware of it, constantly have to be open to having it challenged and saying, no, this is not the only perspective by far, not the only way to live in the world. But then there's also the saying of, okay, well, I still got to wake up in the morning and live my life. And as long as waking up in the morning, living my life is being more welcoming and helpful for others and including them, that's the thing. We're all complicit. How
Oh,
do we account for our
absolutely.
complicity? And I think we can. Here's the thing. Maybe this is what I was getting at with the could have been worded more subtly. Maybe this is what I was getting at with Beaumont Kin and the problem with humans, the problem with white men.
Yeah.
um.
Like people, honestly. I'll put women in
Well,
there.
no, yeah, but specifically,
White people.
yeah, white women. There's this
White
too.
people in general.
Um.
Mm, mm.
But we, you know, uh, white shame is gonna backfire, I think. And so this is the rebel lines. What I'm getting is, could this be worded more subtly? No one's asking us to be laden down with crippling guilt, right? And I think that I think people are afraid of that. That's the thing, that the anti DEI movements, they're afraid of that, right? The thing they're afraid of is losing the ability to wake up in the morning and live their life, uh, only because the life they've known has been consciously or unconsciously harmful to others. It's the unconsciously harmful to others. Okay, there's maybe a better way to live, and that is
I
being.
mean, look, I know this phone probably was made in a factory in like
Yeah, that's
Asia
another
by
example.
slave
Yeah,
labor. I ain't gonna lose sleep over it, but I definitely got I know about it.
yeah,
I'm not gonna not buy it, right?
right. Yeah, my it's the Google machine. Also
Right.
Google Pixel 8 Pro. So yeah, it's a tricky thing. I wonder, I mean, has Andor, I mean, kind of gone into complicity with violence, right? I mean, the beginning of Rogue One, where you see it on his face. Um, but have they gone into that'd be an interesting story to see them tackle, is somebody really going, yeah, that's a way in. It's talking about, I don't want to say necessary complicity, but just, yeah, maybe one thing at a time almost, or I don't know. I'm struggling with the words to
Well,
describe what I'm trying to get at,
I'll
but
I don't even know what comes to
like, I'm not saying it's a good thing,
Mhm.
but it's the struggle to, again, not have crippling guilt while also being aware of that my choices affect others.
I mean, I think Star Wars goes into at least the book goes into some interesting facts about like
Hmm.
you know reason why the people like Mon were able to do what they did because they had the institutional power to
Yeah.
do what they do. They could That's why they could organize in such a way where it's like, I don't know, some ragtag aliens on dirt world planet.
Hmm.
They were never gonna defeat the Empire even if they had all the gumption in the world.
Right.
They didn't have the resources, money, or just the supplies, so they would falter.
Hmm.
Compared to the only alien species that really had it were like the Mon Cala because they were rich. They were there, and they're a rich alien world,
Right.
even if they're in the kind of the outer rim, but they're kind of like the core world. They're the outer rim world that made it because they're like more of a core world in terms of their money.
Probably, I mean, Ryloth probably, at least.
Ryloth sounded like it had a harder time than
Yeah.
Mon Cala,
So
which
they were also really better organized, and also Cham just was more isolationist.
that's true. Jam's more like Algeria. Ryloth's more like Algeria. Mon Cala is more like just they built ships and they had the money. So
Yes, they
they
built the
had.
ships.
So those were the more
Hmm.
organized resistance groups that all got together, and
Hmm.
they kind of had the institutional power of the
Yeah.
galaxy backing them
Hmm.
inherently. Um, I mean, yeah, it is kind of that underlying thing that none of the screen stuff really gets into
Hmm.
that much of the human versus alien sentiments. I mean, it's definitely
Hmm.
I can see why people expand on it, of course. It's there if you want it to be there.
Hmm.
Um it gets a little muddy when things like Andor and Rogue One, which are have way more humans in it, just
Yeah.
human on human violence,
Hmm.
for lack of a better term, which I just think it just kind of maybe that's just not what Gilroy's interested in
Hmm.
compared to like maybe Dave, who's a little bit more like, I'm going to make Ahsoka my main character, and I'm
Right.
going to paint Rosario Dawson brown, and
Hmm.
well, I guess well, she's already kind of dark skinned, orange, or orange. There you go.
Right.
And going to give Mary Elizabeth Winstead green because she's going to be Kara,
Hmm.
and Thrawn's blue. So there's definitely a lot more aliens in the background, and in season two, we're gonna have Akbar, and he's gonna be a big role,
Yeah.
or at least a good secondary role when fight Thrawn.
Hmm.
Um, so it's definitely playing a lot more on that. Um, so whether or not it goes into like human supremacy, I kind of doubt it. I don't think we'll have time for it,
Hmm.
but it's definitely visually going to show probably a more. Well, I mean, I guess no, because we're going to have the Night Sisters with Thrawn, so
Yeah.
Dathomiri and Imperials versus a more diverse rebellion,
Hmm.
in general. So we'll have that. Um, no, I definitely see why we pick on that story because I think it's like, well, if we want Star Wars to reflect our real world a bit, well, we don't want to do true racism because, again, I
Hmm.
think you don't want to
Yeah.
discriminate against humans who want to be bad guys or good guys. So, like, I remember going, like a black stormtrooper, like, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? It's the future. But
Hmm.
if you want to kind of have those stories, like maybe let's just humans are all one thing, and then
Yeah.
the alien species are all the other things, and then even within the alien species, there's problems. Like again, like I remember when I showed you that article about the Mon Cala and the Quarren, and how the Mon Cala were the
Mm.
more civilized beings, and they tried to basically school the Quarren by taking their Quarren kids and making them more Mon Cala.
Well, yeah, I guess I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Basically, it's the indigenous schools for Mon
Right.
Cala and
Residential
Quarren.
schools. Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Right.
where the Mon Cala started them. So
Wild. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, or in the clone, I think even there's a little bit of that in the actual show where it's like the
Hmm.
Quarren are like, we are tribal Quarren, we want to, and
Hmm.
like other Quarren are like, no, we want to be more a part of the galaxy and breed and screw our heritage,
Hmm.
because the Mon Cala are obviously they got the goods.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, there's also some other stories and legends where when they did deep dives on plants, where it's like the Doug apparently are really racist towards the other species on their planet, and like they're the dominant species, and it's really brutal and something like
No
that.
wonder they're especially dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. So we definitely have done other stories where it's like
Yeah.
alien on alien racism. It's
Hmm.
just the whole human cultures thing. Uh, just been more of the kind of a grander narrative
Yeah.
of Star Wars. Yeah, it'd be interesting if Screen really decided to tackle it in a big way. In a way, I don't think
Mm.
anything. I'm even going with the original trilogy on this
Yeah.
doesn't really deal with because it's
No.
just more just good versus evil. And then even with Andor, it's a
Hmm.
bit, but again, just kind of oppression versus freedom. With kind of aliens on the
Yeah.
side. Um,
I mean, is that more of a Star Trek thing to do something more head on
I mean, probably
versus Star
yes.
Wars? I mean, Star Trek explicitly tackled race. Right? Explicitly, I mentioned to her, there's the guy with the black and the white, um,
Oh yeah.
and Discovery explicitly tackling gender identity and things like that. So yeah, maybe Star Wars is more about the ideas behind it and underneath it.
I mean, yeah, I think you can subtly go into their things. I
Hmm.
mean, again, even A New Hope, it's like with Chewie, where are you taking
Yeah.
this thing?
Thing.
I always think of
And
that
and
line.
you mentioned Leia's walking carpet line, and
You can give Chewie a medal.
yeah.
Why is that, Leia? Why'd you not give him a medal? What do you
It's
gotta give
why I chose this T-shirt.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think maybe just kind of more just slow, just kind of
Hmm.
hinting at that than maybe just head on. I mean, even again, the core versus outer rim thing,
Yeah. Hmm.
that's not really dealt with in the movies either. Not really. Um, I can't really
No.
think of on screen Star Wars, even with Clone Wars. Although maybe I'll have to watch some Clone Wars later. to kind of think of like what story actually dealt with like outer rim worlds get the shaft, well the
I mean,
core.
well, the Mina Monteri thing.
Did she mention it because it's a core world thing? I mean, I'll
I
have
mean, it
to
seems pretty implied.
see if she
At
said
least, I mean, it's this depiction of separatists with legitimate grievances, right?
that's true.
Count Dooku was a visionary.
That's true. I'll have to see about. I'll have to see about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, even the First Order, the human high supremacy thing, is more in the books than it is in the movies
Yeah.
or in the comics. I think maybe some of that's like, well, and I think it's maybe that production and like,
Yeah.
well, if we want Ben Solo to get redeemed, do we really want to make him an all-out racist, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's probably part of it.
you know,
Although, do you see any non-humans in the First Order
that's true.
except
That's
for
true.
Snoke?
Except for Snoke and maybe the Praetorian Guard and the
Yeah,
aides, but
yeah. Who knows?
again, that's kind of the weird Sithy stuff, which is
Mhm.
kind of separate
Yeah.
from the
True.
Empire. True. Where it's like Palpatine, just hey, whoever works.
Hmm.
Let me just go through the notes again, see if I missed anything. I think I covered
I think
almost
we got
everything.
everything. Yeah.
So yeah, again, I think a lot of it's just what you want to depict. I think a lot of it
Hmm.
is sort of also the times we live in, where
Yeah.
you want, where like like how we talked about America, we talked about Rome. It's a little bit more complicated than just white
Hmm.
nationalism, racism. It's like, yeah, there's definitely. I think all empires, to some degree, have like an ethnic favorite
Hmm.
in the region. I know about this because I love studying like the old ancient empires, but
Yeah.
like the Ottoman Empire, there were a lot of Arabic people and Egyptians, but the Turks were
Yeah.
still the dominant ethnic group. But
Yeah. Well.
also there were deals with the
Hmm.
Christians and the Turks and the Arabs, like
Yeah.
we will protect your laws and customs, and this group was okay, but maybe this minority wasn't. But like this minority was fine, and
Hmm.
you can be the business class, and maybe that's in some way again where I think
Yeah.
Star Wars is a little bit more
Sorry.
like ancient
Yeah.
empires to some degree. With like, yeah, the humans dominate the military,
Hmm.
but the business class that can go to like the Huts and other aliens are fine.
Yeah.
These minorities, nope, they're not good. But the civilian bureaucracy will give you these, right? So it's like a little
Right.
bit of like an ethnic mix.
I mean, well, so the Ottoman Empire is interesting
Mhm.
for religious freedom
Oh yeah.
because it was very, I mean, it was a very compromised form of religious freedom. The dhimmis, Jews and Christians were given a measure of freedom, but it could be clawed back, and you had to be good with the Ottoman Empire, which was almost effectively a Muslim caliphate or
Oh,
Khanate.
what? I mean, the Sultan was the Caliph.
It was yeah. So what was literally was a caliphate. Okay. That there's also, I mean, the Roman Empire. Here's another thing with the Roman Empire is this is the whole background in the New Testament. If you look at the Jewish Christian tension in the New Testament, is all about, not all about, but a lot of it is about the fact that Judaism had a protected status.
Mhm,
Like the Romans were fine with Jews doing the thing, doing the Passover and doing the
mhm,
uh you know doing all the rituals and everything, and even having their monotheism, but as long as they pay their taxes, and those taxes could be exorbitant, as long as they kind of give a token offering to the emperor too,
mhm,
a little bit, uh and kind of reinforce these Roman class hierarchies, right?
mhm,
uh Christians were not having any of it. Now there were some Jewish groups that opposed it too,
right.
sometimes violently, but Christians were just not able to go with that, and they couldn't oppose it violently because it was also a very non-violent religion at
Mhm,
the start. Believe it or not, Christianity in the first century was non-violent, um, and so they they were pushed out from under Judaism's protective status, and therefore open to persecution and open to martyrdoms and whatnot, and that reveals, yeah, the similar kind of tension of, okay, you go, it's in the Roman way, and
mhm,
the Roman army, you have to be part of the Romanitas, this Roman citizenry that spread across the empire.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess on the trade routes and whatnot, whatever you were, wherever you were, as long as you paid your taxes and gave in to the empire or the army when it marched through. So yeah, I think Star Wars definitely seems to be in that model, in that mode. And then you have things like the Rebel Alliance. There's those in the Empire, like the Aldani or on Jeddah.
Mhm.
Like the Empire doesn't care about all the Force religions or whatever on Jeddah, as long as,
Mhm.
like we saw with Bail at the beginning of Mask of Fear, as long as it's not the Jedi. Anyone else, we see this in the comics. Anyone else, they don't care. They're too small potatoes.
Right.
But once the Rebel Alliance, which, oh by the way, has this hint of these few Jedi lurking around, of course, the son of Skywalker ultimately, then they come out of that protection and out of that privileged status, protected status. Of course, they start opposing, like we see with Andor and the Gore, uh, opposing the anything to do with the Death Star. If you oppose the Death Star, it's because you're opposing the army and the navy. So
I I would even argue, and this is kind of, I think we can make this the last point, and then we can
yeah,
go. Um,
mhm,
I think weirdly, as the empire kind of grew in power, kind of quote unquote,
mhm,
they got cocky. I think
yeah,
kind of and more incompetent. I think people like to think Tarkin's a genius. I've actually heard some good
mm,
arguments like maybe Tarkin's not as smart as he is because ultimately his whole thing is just
yeah,
crush, 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 tighten your grip. The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star
exactly.
systems will slip through your fingers. And I think if they had kept maybe more of a carrot and stick balance of like what the
Mhm,
ancient Romans did, obviously maybe I mean obviously Palpatine was not gonna die, so maybe not anyway.
yeah,
But if maybe if someone like maybe this is what the Pious Day did better, and that's why they lasted 1,000 years.
it's what
They
Thrawn
maybe had
wanted to do.
they had a bit more carrot and sticks approach. The empire could have lasted at least maybe a couple more 100 years,
Hmm.
give or take. But Palpatine and Tarkin, especially kind of, and Vader obviously got cocky, or in Vader's case didn't care,
Hmm.
and was like, it's just screw it, just keep repressing. We're getting more powerful, just start blowing it up, more oppression, and then by the
Especially
time,
the Outer Rim.
especially the Outer Rim. But even
Yeah,
eventually, like they're starting to attack the core with the Death
yeah,
Star, and then after once the Civil War kind of hits, it's like Palpatine's like, I don't care, blow it all, destroy it all. And
hmm,
then when you get to Operation Cinder, the Emperor's just like, yo, you know what? We're just gonna, we don't care about having supporters. It's full fear,
hmm,
100% terror, not
yeah,
even trying to be carrot and stick anymore.
hmm,
And that just kind of just speeds up the process because again, like what we see with the First Order, like what we see with the Day, quite frankly, although very more incompetent. Um, Without any carrots and sticks, it just if it's
yeah,
all sticks, it's just like people are going to turn on you really quick.
yeah,
And that's what I think we see today in the real world, and that's why the First Order lost really quickly when they started getting just like, yeah, screw it, slow you down.
hmm. Whereas Nazis had lots of carrots for good German folk,
Well,
right?
they were able to. I'm talking about when they started expanding to other places as well. That's
True.
when they started just like mowing
Yeah.
everybody down and
Yeah.
making enemies out
Well,
of everybody.
when they break into Sudetenland, I mean, that was the treaties get triggered.
Right.
Just like, I mean, the thing, Alderaan,
Mm.
again, I mean, it's smart. I'm about to, like, Chris Kempshall and Beaumont Kin, they divide the book into before Alderaan and after Alderaan, really. Before, like, in universe, saying BBY and ABY makes sense. Alderaan was the end of the empire, effectively, right? It was the turning point.
Right.
And it's why that's the story George Lucas started with.
Mm.
'Cause that's the turning point.
No, I think
Well,
don't you mean
he
Yavin?
started no, but I mean like destroying Alderaan, right? To say,
I always say destroying the Death Star always is probably my where I would go. But yeah, just
I
same
mean
thing.
they kind of yeah,
Same
but
thing.
in the sense of
It's a double whammy. I always think it's
yeah,
a double
but
whammy.
in well in the sense of they're that brutal and evil that they're willing to do this,
Hmm.
and that they're vulnerable, that the thing that did this can be destroyed.
Right.
That's the double whammy. Yeah.
And losing
So,
Tarkin, that didn't help either.
well, yeah. But,
But yeah, and and that's where the Empire just goes full on
mhm,
evil Germany and kind of loses any of the Roman stuff. But
yeah.
Human high supremacy. I hope we answered the question. I don't know if we did.
A question that we ourselves had, but we answered by saying stories don't really dive into it,
That's true.
but they kind of dive around it, and they go around it is kind of what we're. And this is the ways they tease it out.
I mean, I'll just say as my final point.
Mhm.
I do like it. I think it gives the universe some flavor,
Yeah,
right? Especially because I said, George Lucas's world building is very vibes based, but if you're going to expand this and try to make this a realistic, more comprehensive, maybe is the better word, universe with books like this and other stories, this
Mhm.
might be something just to give the Empire a little bit more of a boost.
Gives them a bit of a why,
Yeah.
more of a why, right? They're not just mustache twirling. The thing about mustache twirling, it's like you're just evil for the sake of being evil, like a plot device,
Like the Emperor.
like the Emperor, like Palpatine himself. But yeah, gives them a why.
Yeah.
So, sometimes. But I think that's a good place to wrap things up. We've hit the 2 hour mark there. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Let us know what you thought of the Pius Dea cult. What do you think of it? Some ideas, story ideas, and lore and theology ideas for them. Think of medieval Christendom there. Also,
Write your
visions.
Pius Day of fanfic, Matthew. I
Yes.
want to see it.
I'm gonna sketch it out. Probably the kind of the
Maybe
bit
ask
there.
ask for some legends tips because she's a
Yes.
legend.
There you go. And yeah, and let me know what you like about visions, how much you love visions, or if what I said about the symbols, the empty symbolism, resonates with you. I will definitely be watching. I promise I'll watch it. I'll finish it. But yeah, it's hard. And yeah, of course, human centrism and fascism in the galaxy far, far away. Let us know what you thought about that. Comment boxes are down below. They ain't going anywhere. Social media ain't going anywhere. Joel, thanks for another great conversation, great discussion that went. It felt like it went all over the place, but I think it was a naturally organic all over the place as opposed to just
Chaos.
yes, it was an organic organism. So there we go. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at JID20234 on Blue Sky or Bisky.social, JID20234, BlueSky.social. I'm always, of course, on the Star Wars Underworld Discord server where we talk games, visions, Ahsoka, anything, lots of fun stuff. And of course, the Ion Cannon Blue Sky Social. You can follow me there as well, where I got Dr. Chris Kempshaw to retweet this podcast.
Yes, definitely shout out to Chris, and yeah, I mean, such a brilliant book that I promise I will finish at some point. Yeah, there we go. Yes, you can follow my personal Instagram threads and Blue Sky MNEUG1138, personal Twitter NEUG485. What else? Yes, of course. Yeah, Iron Cannon.
I got one more plug.
You have more plug? Go for it.
If you live in New York, don't forget to vote. If you live in California,
Yes.
don't forget to vote. Also, let's
Jersey.
see, New Jersey, Virginia. I think that's it.
Yeah, whatever. Wherever there's an election, vote in that election.
Yes.
It's the bare minimum of democracy, but it's part of it. Yes, Tractor Beam this Wednesday, Insider Short Story, Boba Fett Black, White, and Red #2, and Legacy Vader #10. That's this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and then coming right back at you next week at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Iron Cannon podcast, where we will. I am this far into the Last Order.
So close.
Come hell or come Malachor or high water of Camino, I will finish this book, and then we'll review it next week. But yeah, and then at some point, and then onto Master of Evil.
Woohoo!
And, whatnot. Read your Darth Vader comic, 2017 or that first arc. Give that a read. Just to refresh memory. But yeah, definitely check us out then. But until then, Joel, spoil this thing and head home.